Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for May 15th, 2018. On today's show, we're going to talk about what we've been watching at the multiplex, and we are going to, in the news, talk a lot about TV news. The significant part of this podcast is going to be talking about all the TV news that's been happening the last few days. This is Slash Film Editor-in-Chief Peter Sciretta, and joining me on today's podcast, Slash Film writers, Hoai-Tran.
Hey, everyone.
And Chris, Evangelista.
Hello.
Okay, guys, joining me by the water cooler. Let's talk about what we've been up to. Last night, I finally got to see Deadpool 2, a movie that Chris saw earlier. He really enjoyed, despite not liking the first Deadpool movie. That had set my expectations higher for this film. And I don't want to say I disliked it, but it was fine. It was a fine movie. I just feel like maybe I'm not the audience for these movies. I know some people are going to like them. I really liked the first one. It felt kind of like, I've never seen a superhero movie like this before. But this movie just, like, tries to pack so many jokes and so many, dick and fart jokes. And, like, here's a reference every 30 seconds. And I just feel like I was exhausted. And it felt obnoxious, and even though I do agree with you, Chris, that this film is better directed, there's like a really cool one-shot slow-motion sequence in this film that's amazing. It's better written. Like, there's some emotional beats in the first and third acts of this film that are really good and really smart, smarter than the movie, I think. But I think by the time I get to them, I've just been so bludgeoned to death by the assault of not so funny jokes most of the time, dubstep references and callbacks to the first film that I didn't think were even that funny in the first film. That I don't know. I just was I was sitting next to Ben Pearson at the screening, and he was, as his wife said, fuming the entire movie. So Chris, I know you enjoyed this movie. So to give us the counterpoint, why am I wrong?
I really don't know if you're wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I've said before, I did not like the first Deadpool. In fact, I hated it. And almost everyone I knew loved that movie, and they acted like it was this big, game-changing movie where it was, the funniest superhero movie ever made, and so on and so on. And I just sat there watching it, just utterly confused as to what everyone was raving about. But this film, I went into it with low expectations, and yet I really liked it. And to hear, that you and Ben didn't like it, I'm starting to wonder, like, what sort of alternate dimension I've slipped into where I'm the one who likes a Deadpool movie. Let me be clear. I don't think this is like a great movie. This isn't going to end up on my top 10 list of the year. The script is almost non-existent. I mean, it introduces all these new characters, but we don't learn anything about them, and that bugged me. And there's a lot of stuff that I didn't like about the movie. But I don't know. Whereas the first film, I sat there, stone-faced, not laughing at a single joke. I actually cracked up at a lot of jokes in this movie I wasn't expecting that at all. So I don't know. I feel like you have to, at least for me, I have to be in the right frame of mind. Like, I don't know if I'll ever watch this again and if I'll like it as much as I did. But when I saw it in a theater and with a crowd that was eating it up, I sort of got swept up in it, and I liked it.
I'm curious where I'll fall on this, because right now, Jacob was talking about this, how Team Slash Film was kind of split in the middle on this movie. And I was just kind of okay with the first film. I thought it was just fine. I didn't think it was as smart as everyone else was saying it was, but some of the jokes landed okay for me. So I was kind of expecting more with Deadpool 2 because you were surprised with it, Chris. But now I'm not really so sure.
It's funny that, it took Deadpool 2 to create the Slash Film Civil War. But, Chris, you saw a movie yesterday, and that was the new Star Wars film. What did you think?
Yes, I did. I liked it. It's I said this off air on the in the Slash Film Slack, but I think the Last Jedi has sort of like ruined Star Wars for me, because I love that movie, and I also think that was like this big, bold, really different entry into the Star Wars canon, and it has a lot of stuff on its mind. That The Last Jedi is a very smart, very well thought out movie, despite what some of the internet people say. And to go from that to this, which Solo, while very entertaining and while filled with likable characters, it's not really about anything. It's an entertaining movie, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this movie, as I watched it, this is the first Star Wars movie in a while that I watched with the feeling of like, oh, this only exists to give us more Star Wars movies. Like, I know deep down that's what all Star Wars movies exist for. They're to.
But you didn't feel that way about like Rogue One?
I don't like Rogue One. I actually think Rogue One is like the worst Star Wars movie in recent memory, but I didn't really feel that way with that because I don't know, that story was really self-contained for what it was. And this movie, without giving spoilers away, really isn't self-contained, which I was not expecting. And that kind of threw me off. This really felt like, oh, this is a movie they're using to start a franchise. Whereas, even The Last Jedi, which is the second film in a trilogy, feels like its own thing. Whereas this movie, it doesn't feel like that to me. And again, it's entertaining. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the characters. I think everyone in the movie is really good, despite all the the behind the scenes rumors. But it was not as good as I was hoping it would be.
Yeah, I keep on telling people that it's an entertaining movie. I enjoyed it, but it is kind of like just the best case scenario for a movie about Han Solo that nobody wanted or needed. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't really imagine them doing a better movie about Han Solo's origin story, but I'm not sure we ever needed a movie about Han Solo's origin story. But I'm glad I saw it. But HT, I can't wait for you to see it and so you can be part of this conversation. But let's jump.
I'm left out right now.
Yeah, you're left out. Let's jump into the news, and the news is all TV because all the networks are making their big announcements on renewals, cancellations, announcements of new series, TV trailers. Let's start off with what won't be returning, and that is the X-Files. Chris, what do we know?
So the X-Files, as I feel like most people know, it came back for a revival season, and then it got a second revival season at Fox. And, the most recent season, which was technically season 11, just ended. And around the time it was ending, Gillian Anderson, one of the co-stars, said she would definitely not be back. And when she said that, I personally was checked out because I can't imagine the X-Files without Gillian Anderson, and it seems like no one else can either because at Fox, they during a press conference, Fox Entertainment president Michael Thorne said there are really no plans right now for any more seasons of the X-Files. And personally, I hope it stays that way because I don't really want any more lackluster seasons. I love the original run of the X-Files, but the revival stuff, aside from one or two episodes, I really did not care for it.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of friends who are fans of the X-Files, and I don't even think they were excited about these revival seasons of the X-Files.
I was excited for the first season, but then I watched it and was quite disappointed. I think, the writer's room did not really... they suffered a lot from lack of diversity and also just from a lack of new ideas. It was not good.
And it at least from the episode I saw, it felt like a show that was made back when, the X-Files went off the air. It didn't feel like it evolved with the times of, serialized television. It seemed very odd. Speaking about Fox, what is going on with Prison Break and 24? Will we get more of those shows?
Yes, we will. So again, there's nothing like set in stone yet, but they are currently developing both more Prison Break, which is a show I never watched, but I know some people like it, and 24. There has been a 24 revival, and the way Fox made it sound with this is they're actually planning several different ideas for a new 24. One of them is one we had reported on previously where it's a legal thriller set over 24 hours about a female attorney trying to solve a case. So that's one idea, but apparently there's more than one in the works, but we don't really know what they are.
Did either of you ever, Chris, you said you didn't watch Prison Break. HT, did you ever watch Prison Break?
I watched the pilot of Prison Break and was intrigued, but I never got into the rest of the season or series. So, and 24, I think the same thing. I watched like one episode and was like, this is interesting, but never got back to it. But I think it sounds to me like they're making a sort of 24 extended universe or cinematic universe of a sort.
It would actually be interesting if that court case somehow involves Jack Bauer in some way. I was a fan of 24. It did like lose its steam in the last few seasons. Prison Break was kind of like it should have been a one season, like, today we have all these anthology series, which is just one season, and it should have been left at that. And I think it like lost its steam in season 2, but people seem to like those characters, so I guess they're bringing them back. But let's go from networks to Netflix, and let's talk about Lost in Space. I know this hit the service last month, and Chris, you did a deep dive on that, doing a review on the site. What did you think of the first season?
I liked it. It's not, it doesn't break new ground. There's nothing really you haven't seen a million times before in the show. Like it feels a lot like the J.J. Abrams Star Trek films. Like it's clearly borrowing a lot from that. It's also borrowing a lot from Lost, which I wasn't expecting, where the framing device, like how Lost would have the current timeline and then flashbacks to stuff that happened before everyone ended up on the island. The Netflix Lost in Space does the same thing, where it's them stranded, in space, and then flashbacks to before they went into space. So it's like they took the Lost part of the title a little too literally there. But Netflix announced they're giving it a second season now, so we'll get more Lost in Space.
I feel like it's very hard to not get a second season when you're on Netflix. Like it almost seems like a given. Like they're almost going to give any show like 2 chances.
They started being more strict recently. Like they've been canceling a few more of their shows to a lot of people's surprise. What was that? That Wachowski series that got axed.
Sense8.
Sense8, yes.
Sense8,
yeah. So they've been axing a few more shows, but yeah, it's generally a lot easier to get renewed on Netflix than it is on major networks.
Let's turn our eyes to ABC and Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. HT is the only one on this podcast still watching that, or you actually aren't even still watching it. I think you haven't caught up on the current season, but it turns out it has survived the Wrath of Thanos and will return in the summer of 2019, despite rumors that it was going to be on its last legs. What do we know?
Yeah, it survived the Wrath of Thanos and this year's sort of high body count when it comes to axing TV shows. So I think at about 25 shows were canceled this year by major networks, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s 5th season was reported and rumored to be its final season. We even had a story a few months back about how the showrunners were preparing the season finale to double as a series finale. But it turns out that will not be the case, because ABC has renewed the series for an abbreviated 13-episode 6th season, but it won't be returning until summer 2019. So it kind of puts into question like how first Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will be dealing with the aftermath of Avengers Infinity War, and also where it will be in the timeline with the MCU, because by the time 2019 rolls around, we'll have reached the release date of Avengers 4. So will they just skip that altogether, maybe? That would be an interesting sort of thing, because they have done several like year-long or month-long flashbacks previously. And it has worked sometimes and it hasn't worked other times. So that's something that they could definitely use this time around.
It'd be interesting if they embraced it and they were able to get rid of some of the higher contract actors by just... yeah. You know what?
Clark Gregg might be busy because, he's going to come back to the MCU with Captain Marvel.
Yeah. It's interesting. In my older age, I feel like I used to be all about these shows that had like 24 episodes, like Lost and 24. And nowadays I'm like, a show, if it's around like 10 to 13 episodes is like the sweet spot. Like any more than that, it feels like there's a lot of filler episodes. So I'm wondering if that season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will be any more tighter at a 13 episode length.
It very well may be because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. already operates on sort of half seasons. They don't do season long arcs, but they kind of do half season arcs where they build up to like a winter finale and have like a big arc up until then and a big bad for each like half of the season. And that's worked really well for them so far. And they've done some really interesting storylines that get wrapped up really easily, but have done things like alternate realities and time travel and like war within humans. That ends after like a half season. So with a 13 episode season, it will probably be probably the same and like maybe even tighter, like you said.
Okay, let's move on to Lethal Weapon. We had rumors, I think, last week that they were going to replace one of the lead actors in that show, and we finally have word that that is happening. Chris, what do we know?
So Lethal Weapon, the show based on the film starring Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. There were all these rumors that the star of the show, Clayne Crawford, was basically being a menace on set and just creating this unhealthy work environment. And he was officially fired, and it seemed that the show might actually go off the air because the contracts of the rest of the cast were about to be up. But it looks like the show has been saved, and Fox has replaced him with Seann William Scott from the American Pie films. He's playing a new character. He's not playing the same character Crawford played. He's playing some new character. We're not really sure who yet.
Yeah, and there was even some tweets from Marlon Wayans showing, what was it, like he claimed that there's some safety reasons for the firing?
There's shrapnel that he was hit with, I think, and it had something to do with the actor that was fired, but I didn't read the full thing. But yeah it seemed like he put the set in danger in some way.
And I think Marlon Wayans deleted the tweets afterwards, so you would have to search online somewhere to find those. But in Gotham is returning for a final season. I don't think any of us watch that series, but probably some people out there that listen to this show are excited for that, I think. Maybe? I don't know. Someone needs to be watching that show, right?
I hear from people who have watched it that it's gone so off the rails that it's actually quite enjoyable. But I have no idea myself. I only watched like the first 3 episodes.
Okay, let's talk about some of the big cancellations that are going on. Chris, you did a post on the site kind of rounding up some of the shows that are getting cut short. What are we missing now?
All right, so The Exorcist, that got the axe. Lucifer, that's also gone. Those are both Fox shows. Designated Survivor, the Kiefer Sutherland film where he becomes the president by accident. That's gone. Quantico, the FBI drama, which I didn't actually realize was still in the air. That's gone. Alex Inc., which I have never heard of in my life, but apparently was a show starring Zach Braff about a podcaster. That only got through 1 season before that got canceled. Great News, which was from Tina Fey produced it, and I'd actually heard really good stuff about that, but apparently not. The audience just wasn't there, so that got canceled. And then Taken, the show based on the Liam Neeson films, that is also gone, but apparently they're trying to shop that around to a new home. So anyone out there, if you want to buy Taken, now's your chance.
I feel like we're coming off the era of a ton of TV shows being adapted from movies, and we're seeing a lot of those names here that, they didn't quite make it. Although I've heard a lot of great things about The Exorcist, I think. Chris, did you watch any of these shows?
I watched some of the first season of The Exorcist, and I didn't love it, but I did hear it got better, especially in the second season. So I might actually go back and watch it now because a lot of times when shows get canceled, that's when I finally go back and watch them because I like to know there's like an end game. Like, oh, I know I can finish this in a certain period of time.
I actually watched Quantico, which was quite a promising sort of crime drama that took place had the interesting timeline thing going for it. Had both present day and past flashbacks going on as well. And it starred Priyanka Chopra, who had made her sort of crossover U.S. debut from Bollywood. So I watched it for like the first season, and it was on Hulu, but then it got taken off of Hulu, and that's when I kind of stopped watching it actually.
I haven't watched any of these shows. I watched Designated Survivor for the first few episodes, and then I realized that was just becoming ridiculous. Not that it didn't start off ridiculous, but another show that got canceled by CBS, Deception. Did any of you watch this show? Probably not.
Never heard of it.
It's one of these procedurals where it is a master illusionist who is hired by the FBI to help them solve cases. And it's kind of like in the vein of Now You See Me, kind of corny magic to, I don't know. It was bad, even for a person who likes magic. It was just like one of those forgettable CBS procedurals. Another show that got canceled, fans are upset, is the sci-fi TV show The Expanse. Chris, what do we know?
Yeah, so Sci-Fi canceled The Expanse. This feels like one of those shows I never heard anyone talk about, but then the minute it got canceled, the internet exploded and everyone, was like, I'm a huge fan of this. Why did you cancel it? Even though, again, I don't remember anyone talking about it. But that has been canceled. But like a lot of shows that recently got the axe, there is a modicum of hope, I guess you could say. One of the producers behind the show are very interested in shopping it around to some new home. So you never know. Someone might pick up The Expanse. I don't know who. You never know, but it could happen. But for now, its days at Sci-Fi are numbered. I believe it's going to air its last episode on Sci-Fi in July.
I watched the opening couple episodes of this, and I was kind of intrigued. I wanted to keep on going. My girlfriend Kitra was not as into it, so it just fell off our list. But this is one of those shows that, like, oftentimes I'll go to IMDb and look at their TV page of, like, the best user-rated TV shows of all time and see, like, what I might be missing out on. And The Expanse has been on this list for a long time. They have an 8.3 out of 10, which is, I think, if you get to like the top of the list, maybe Breaking Bad maybe is like a 9 out of 10 or something like that. So it's like, it was beloved by everybody who was watching it, and I still want to give it a chance. Although now that it's canceled, I'm wondering if it will have a satisfying ending. It's funny, Chris, that you are more willing to give a show a chance after it's canceled because there's an end point, whereas I think most people like me, like, I look at that as like, oh, there's not going to be a satisfying ending, so I'm not even gonna dive in. That doesn't bother you?
Not really. It depends. Like, I'll sometimes I'll look up something, and if it says like this ends on a cliffhanger, then maybe I just won't even bother watching it. But it doesn't. I'm usually okay with it.
Yeah. HT is compiling a list of all the network TV shows that are canceled and renewed for the 2018-2019 season. HT, have we missed anything big in our rundown so far?
Yeah, we have a running list, and I think there are a few that we might have missed. Marvel's Inhumans was canceled by ABC, which does not come too much of a surprise to anyone. It was not a well-received show. Rise from NBC was also canceled. I'm sorry, after having quite a bit of publicity. That was the series about the real life drama teacher, I think. Yes, the real life drama teacher who inspires a working class community through theater. So it starred Josh Radnor, and it had Ali Cravalho. Sorry, I might have butchered her name, from Moana, and it had quite a bit of good press, but that one got canceled by NBC. What else? Let's see. Last Man on Earth was a big axe from Fox, and that one had quite an outpouring of support as well, but unfortunately that support didn't save the show like it did for Brooklyn Nine-Nine on Fox, which got saved by NBC a day after it was canceled. So, and we talked about that yesterday. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is great. And CW also canceled a few shows, surprisingly, because they never cancel shows either. I think, Peter, you're talking about how Netflix gives you a guarantee essentially for a second season. CW is kind of the second after that. They canceled 2 shows, Life Sentence and Valor, which are shows I actually haven't heard of, despite being an avid CW watcher. So I guess it's fine that they canceled those 2. And I think that's it.
Well, cool. And that list will be updated throughout the week as more shows are announced. But let's move on to a little bit of exciting news, I think, maybe. DC Universe is a digital service. They have announced a new show, live-action Doom Patrol series. Chris, what do we know?
Yeah, so DC has their digital service called DC Universe. They have a bunch of shows lined up right now, including one new one called Doom Patrol, which is about a team of misfit superheroes or outcast superheroes, they say, with characters like Robot Man and Negative Man and Elastigirl, who I guess is not the character from The Incredibles. I've never heard of these characters, but DC is launching their big service. They've already have a Swamp Thing show. They have Young Justice. They have Titans. So they're really trying to make this happen, this service.
Yeah. Let's keep an
eye.
I
will watch for Young Justice, though. I don't know about Doom Patrol, but
yeah, I feel like this is a deeper cut for hardcore fans. But who knows? I mean, when they have a trailer out, we'll give it a chance. But speaking of trailers, Fox has unveiled their fall 2018 trailers, and you have rounded them up in a post on the site HT. What should we be on the lookout for?
So there are a fair few comedies and dramas, but it's interesting that all of Fox's new comedies are multi-camera comedies, so sitcoms in the traditional sense. And it seems like this is sort of influenced by their success they had with Roseanne, which both hit that nostalgia spot as well as the easy, smaller budget of a multicam sitcom. So one of the new promising sitcoms from Fox is something called Rel, which stars Lil Ray Howery as a single dad whose life falls apart after his wife leaves him for his barber. So it's kind of him trying to bring his life back together. And you may know Lil Ray Howery from Get Out. He was the scene-stealing best friend who is the TSA agent. The trailer is just kind of your typical sitcom shenanigans. It elicited a few chuckles, but I would watch probably for Lil Ray Howery. He was very promising, and he was great in Get Out. And Sinbad also stars. So that is one that you might want to keep a lookout for. The next one is the most intriguing one. It's called The Passage. So it's a sci-fi thriller series based on a best-selling book or trilogy of the same name by Justin Cronin. And it is executive produced by Ridley Scott as well as Matt Reeves. And it's basically a very ambitious, character-driven series about a dangerous virus that threatens to wipe out all of humanity, and scientists are scrambling to find a cure to like these sort of zombie-like symptoms. And out of options, they end up suggesting experimenting on a child. But when the federal agent goes to retrieve that child, he kind of grows a conscience, and they go on the run and become fugitives. So it has this sort of The Road meets Contagion meets kind of World War Z type of concept, and that looks pretty thrilling. It's actually a great high concept series that seems ripe for cancellation by Fox. So Fox really loves to pick up these really high concept series. They've done this with Firefly, The Dollhouse, The Tick, and then canceling it or keeping it on the bubble for several seasons. So
what do? They move it to like Friday night, and then like it's in the death slot, and then it gets canceled a few weeks later.
Exactly.
Fox is so
they
typical.
Slowly kill it. Yep. So it seems it's promising, and it's probably going to get a big, really or small devoted following because it does seem really promising. But I would be wary if you decide to watch it. So there are a few other ones. Fox picked up or saved Last Man Standing after it got canceled by ABC after 6 seasons, which I did not realize it already ran for 6 seasons. But that goes to show what kind of demographic I'm in. And they also have a few others. A sitcom called The Cool Kids, a law procedural called Proven Innocent that seems very earnest and inspiring, and it stars Vincent Kartheiser from Mad Men with a beard, so that's really exciting. And their last one is The New Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh, I'm excited for that. And I'm excited for that show that you were mentioning Matt Reeves is involved with, just because of Matt Reeves. Yeah, The Passage. Chris did a roundup of shows from NBC that are premiering this fall. Chris, what should we be on the lookout for?
None. None of these look good. No.
Chris, do you watch any network television?
I just started watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine on Hulu because I so much hype. I used to watch Parks and Rec when that was on, but there's nothing like new at the moment I'm watching. But there's a show called Manifest, which has sort of like a Lost vibe, where it's about a plane that takes off and then mysteriously lands 5 years later, and the whole world has changed, but everyone on the plane has stayed the same, which sounds like it could be cool, but it also sounds like one of those shows where after Lost came out, they started making all these shows that were basically like Lost, where like Heroes and Flash Forward, all those shows.
I watched all of those.
Yeah.
There's a show called New Amsterdam, which
by the way, like, why is there not another Lost? Like, all those shows were bad was the problem. Like, why can't someone do that? Like that kind of high concept sci-fi, Twilight Zone.
That's kind of what Westworld is kind of like the Lost, I think.
There's also The Leftovers.
Yeah,
but that's totally that's depressing.
Well, they're bleaker than Lost was. There's a show called New Amsterdam, which is a doctor show. It's about one doctor who wants to shake up the system. You've seen this show a million times.
Yeah, it's basically House or whatever.
Yeah. There's a show called I Feel Bad, which I can relate to because that's what I say when I wake up every morning. But that's just like a family sitcom comedy, and that's really that's it.
So basically, people should not turn their dial. Do people still turn the dial? No, they don't turn the dial. They should not click on NBC because it sounds like it's kind of depressing over there.
Unless you're going to see Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh yeah, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Okay. You can read about all the stories we talked about today, including all the trailers we mentioned in the show notes. I have also linked Chris's Deadpool 2 review, as well as our review from our other writer, Josh
Spiegel,
yeah. Josh did not like it. Chris did like it, so you can read both views on the site, and also Chris's Lost in Space review from back in the day. HT, where can people find more of your work online?
You can find me every day at slashfilm.com, and I'm on Twitter at HTranBuoy.
Chris, where can we find you?
I'm also at slashfilm.com, and I'm on Twitter at Evangelista413.
You can find me at /film on Twitter. You can, you can stalk me around Los Angeles. You can find this podcast published every weekday on iTunes, Google Play, Overcast, Spotify, all the popular podcast apps. Please feel free to send us your feedback, questions, comments, concerns to Peter at slashfilm.com, and we will hopefully mention them in a later mailbag segment. Please go rate and review this podcast on iTunes. Tell your friends, spread the word, and we'll see you tomorrow.